High Court judges, former police officers, including anti-terrorist squad, eminent lawyers, criminologists, legal academicians from across India, researchers, media personnel, cyber forensic experts, psychiatrists, sociologists, and others. The discussion will be moderated by Director and Dean Dr. Shashikala Gurpurma, a former member of Law Commission of India. Based on suggestions received from the above eminent personalities and an online public polling, which will be conducted at the end of each panel, a consolidated list of recommendations will then be submitted to the Ministry of Home Affairs, New Delhi, on behalf of Symbiosis Law School, Pune. To deliver the welcome address and introduce the theme of today's consultation, I would like to invite Dr. Shashikala Gurpur, Director, Symbiosis Law School, Pune, Dean, Symbiosis International Deemed University. She is the recipient of several distinct honors, awards, and recognitions for her contributions in legal education, gender sensitization, and community outreach programs. In recognition of her contributions to the Indian legal academia, she was listed in the book 100 Legal Luminaries of India by LexisNexis and has also been conferred with the prestigious annual Kittur Rani Chennamma Award by the Government of Karnataka in 2018 for her work towards the empowerment of women. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, our esteemed panelists, including the most distinguished members like Justice Madam Shalini Phansalkar, Advocate Ujjwal Nikam, the famous public prosecutor, our very senior lawyer, Mr. S.K. Jain, and we are expecting many more, our very esteemed police officer, Mr. Banu Pratap Barge, our very distinguished academic colleagues, journalists, advocates, psychiatrists, forensic experts, faculty, and students. A very warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'm very happy to welcome each and every one of you to this very, very special occasion, which is very close to our heart. Our earlier historical engagement with such public consultation has been way back in 2011, the last I can remember. After I came here in 2007, by 2010, when I had the opportunity at the Law Commission, we took the initiative of bringing together hundreds of judges from across Maharashtra and all the members of the Law Commission of India to deliberate on how to improve the justice delivery system. Prior to that, before I took over, a year prior to that, we had distinguished and now late Advocate Ram Jethmalani, as well as our esteemed legal legend, Dr. Madhav Menon, taking the lead to look at criminal justice system reforms in the light of Malimat Committee report. So this college hasn't done this venture for the first time. True to the public spirited origins of Symbiosis through our founder, Dr. S.B. Mazumdar sir, to alleviate the plight of international students in Pune way back in 1970s. And then our various engagement as a law school in terms of extending legal education to public through our community legal service, and a number of accolades and consistent top 5 position in the All India ranking through all-round excellence that we represent. We thought that when the Home Ministry wrote to us, it's only to engage rather than postpone the idea. So in January, we received this note from none other than Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah. We wrote back saying, yes, we will engage in your desire to make the criminal justice system more people-friendly, more people-centric, expedient, quick, and look at some of the flaws in the justice system, and most of all, most participatory, where public engage or people engage in the legal system. I would not like to preempt the eminent speakers who are going to deck the panelist chair here or gallery here, but we thought that our tradition in Symbiosis Law School, which has been a prize-winning tradition of proposing community-based law reforms. Now, this very idea of community-based law reforms hasn't been a very old methodology of looking at law reforms. It is the reform approach which has come in the 90s by National Law School Bangalore and Asian Development Society, where I had the opportunity of guiding a team. And we became the national award winning team among many others. That tradition again got discontinued. And in Symbiosis Law School, Pune, on Gram Panchayat reforms, especially in terms of ladies' participation, on community land allotment by the government, the Gauran land, and also on the issue of natural resources, we have had prize-winning community-based law reform proposals. Recently, we did on uniform civil code proposal, especially on adoption and surrogacy. So there also we won the national award. So we have had as a law school this tendency to go to the community, seek community opinion, and then what we call as learn, unlearn, and relearn approach. This way we prepare thousands of students. We have about 2,000 students in our law school motivated to take on the future by not leaving law reform work to the legislature alone, because a house of 500 plus deliberating on such a vast nation would be much more meaningful and participatory if youth participate in that, if everybody participates, and it will bring law closer to the people also. And it will make, as Home Minister desired, justice system to be more engaged with the people. So when the letter came in January, we sent a consent, but then with the COVID, it all got postponed, our initiative. In the meanwhile, National Law School Delhi also, I'm going to present those details in my presentation. Next slide, please. I'm very happy to introduce to you our, which has Dr. Atmaram Shelke, who is a senior assistant professor, who is a very deep researcher as far as criminal justice system is concerned. Ms. Aditi Mane, who is a junior research fellow. Mr. Ashish Deshpande, he's Dr. Ashish Deshpande. Ms. Chaitrali Deshmukh, who is a journalist and visiting faculty and pursuing PhD with us. Professor Shirish Kulkarni, Ms. Apurva Singh, our JRF, and Ms. Aishwarya Mane, our JRF. These are the primary contributors, and in supporting and assistance at the technical level and in rolling out today's program, we have had the support of our Professor Rupal, our assistant professor Virendra, Ms. Priyanka Mazumdar, the assistant professor, and our advocate Sangramjit Chavan, who is also a visiting faculty and a part-time teacher here, and our ICT team of Mr. Jatale and Mr. Balesh Zorwekar. Now, if we look at how we identified key areas, that is the question, because in 3 hours, how a vast ocean of 3 legislations, actually 4, which our Home Ministry wanted us to reflect upon, namely the Indian Penal Code, Criminal Procedure Code, Indian Evidence Act, and Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Act. It's a very tall order for a 3-hour deliberation. So we truncated this by months and hours of work, hundreds of hours of work by this team at different levels. So we created the original questionnaire, which took about a month to run the pilot with someone and then improve it. And then we looked at after the questionnaire was sent out and brought back, the numbers were very less. Some of the stakeholders in the criminal justice system were not, for example, police officers were so busy with the COVID, they could not respond. Then someone like Banu Pratap Bargeswar came to our rescue, and some of the officials who are in the top ranks also helped us. And so most of our colleagues have been through the practice line. I myself have fought cases of women and things like that. So we have had such guidance. And in developing such questionnaire, we had to look at, some of the phenomena of this country. Because parallelly, 3 developments were happening. Home Ministry was writing to many law schools. So Gujarat Law School was doing a little bit. Our Mumbai National Law School was doing a little bit. And Delhi National Law School had created a committee to directly interact with the Home Ministry because of the convenience of proximity. So we studied their websites as well. However, when we identified our themes, we did not want to duplicate the work, because we wanted to focus more on what is so unique to the location where we are. If we say it is Western India, then we have to concentrate more on Maharashtra because of what we call as convenience sampling and because of the locational advantage. So what we took as the basis was, please move the slide, National Crime Records Bureau, it published a report in 2019 under the aegis of the Home Ministry, which was published in newspapers in bits and pieces sometime in November 2019. And it was only 2 months after that that we had received the minister's letter. So we saw that highest reported crimes in India in 2019 were more about property related, they were 4% on property related and 22% in terms of tangible property, and miscellaneous about 23%, liquor and narcotics related 24%, but offenses against human body was 27%. I was not going to take it on this kind of a statistical broad percentages. So we investigated deep and we found out that among the crimes against women rated the most. I mean, they were the highest in terms of bodily offenses, and we are still reeling under the shadow of Hathras and all these kinds of atrocities against women with multiple disadvantages. So we saw that when it came to these highest number of crimes, which are crimes against women, and which states were leading, I always had this very great picture about Maharashtra, but I was shocked to see that states like Odisha, states like Maharashtra having a very high number, and within those also, two categories of crimes being on the top level. One is cruelty by husband or relative. So again, marriage has become the focal point here, family and all that. And secondly, assault on women with intent to outrage her modesty. So the bodily dimension very much sits with the disadvantaged status and a female or the other gender kind of body. So this was one point which was intriguing for us. Second, next slide, please. We also saw that if you look at disadvantaged section like SC/ST, we saw simple hurt being a very top kind of crime. And then there were other crimes also against them, and offenses against SC/ST women in terms of rape and outraging modesty was quite a big number. So that's an interesting slice in terms of reality of India's criminal justice system's pain areas. Let's go to the next slide, please. Even the state-wise ranking is quite interesting. We see that 44% comes in the green zone, and that green zone is other crimes, and the blue zone of 30% is simple hurt, and the orange zone of rape in the pie chart is about 8%. And here again, certain states seem to be recurring in terms of number of crimes. So let's go to the next slide, please. So I'm just setting the context. So this is again reflecting the crimes against the ST, where again the blue zone corresponds with a certain state, and here we are speaking of state of Madhya Pradesh. Of course, the population is also highest there of the ST. Then offenses against property reflects in the state statistics. I mean, these are just glimpses, but when we are doing an analytical study where our reforms should be targeting, in terms of offenses against human body, you have Bihar leading the lot, and then we have regionally Uttar Pradesh also being there. So in terms of offenses against human body, we have hurt, we have kidnapping, we have assault, we have rape, and particularly assault against women, and then murder and other crimes. Let's go to the next slide, please. Ministry of Home Affairs wanted us to focus more on safety and security of the individual, the community, and the nation. So it begins with individual. And is every individual the same? I was reading about vulnerability. It was telling that we can't be universal when we look at it. We have to be particular also. Particular was the one which we revealed in the earlier pie charts. Report. Particular situation of women, particular situation of SC/ST. Now, prioritizing the constitutional values of dignity and the inherent worth of the individual. If you ask me, safety and security we looked at in terms of special types of themes that we have addressed, where we are looking at conviction rates to be improved, providing witness protection, providing victim protection, and also in terms of looking at the issues within the prison system, and how the prosecution can be withdrawn and that whole process can be misused, how technology is going to be utilized in terms of creating a safe and secure India. And then we have constitutional values coming in terms of, once again, within the prison system we have dealt with because of the prosecution being in the focus in the beginning. So we there looked at in terms of how denial of bail could be looked at in terms of being very narrowly cast, because now it is not so rationally done in terms of the reality of overcrowding of prisons and protection of the liberty and dignity by distinguishing, the classification dimension. So making the system more citizen-centric means, how do you look at the vulnerable? Speedy and affordable justice. How is the Legal Aid Services Authority acting? So we also invite the esteemed audience and panelist attention to National Law School Delhi's website, where they have put a highly technical kind of provisions based recommendations on the three legislations. They have not touched upon the NDPS. That is where we differ. Secondly, they had a deliberation schedule, but we did not see a deliberation report. We wanted to keep the deliberation more participatory, as the ministry wanted, bringing all stakeholders here and bringing feedback and engaging audience in polling. Then we also saw in the National Law School Delhi approach more emphasis on IPC and less emphasis on Criminal Procedure Code and NDPS and Evidence Act, less emphasis on long-term structural reforms such as political interference, quality and role of police and prosecutors, speedy trials. There was less emphasis on prison reforms as well. Whereas our dimension of transformation of the criminal justice system is based on the literature that we reviewed, and we picked these few themes, and we collected data from over 100 stakeholders and their practices, and aligning it with ministry objective. And equally, we emphasized the structural changes and the legal changes. We believe that